Yes, good morning, students. What happened? Very less number of students. What is the reason? Which class was there before this? Any lecture was there before this? Sanskrit. Okay. I'm fine. How are you all? I'm good. I'm good. What happened to my health, Re? Why you are asking about my health? I was not having any health problem. No need to ask. Still 30 students only. Nitrogen has 3 bonds available, so if can use 2 bonds of itself, I didn't get you. What you are asking? Chalo. So let us start with topic. Yes. Good morning, all. Okay. Going to your till what we have discussed. What was the last point we have taken? We are in qualitative analysis, है ना? Are we in a test for nitrogen? Yes, very good. So by this reaction, we'll be recognizing a nitrogen element, presence or absence of nitrogen element. Let us take the next one, that is a test for sulfur. Test for sulfur. When you take the sodium extract solution, to the sodium extract solution, if you add little amount of lead acetate, and if the solution converts into black precipitate, if the solution converts into black precipitate, it is due to the formation of lead sulfide. After the addition of lead acetate, if there is a black precipitate, then it is a lead sulfide. The lead sulfide formation, black precipitate formation, indicates that in the sodium extract solution, sulfur is present. And where from sulfur came here? This is sulfur came from organic compound when it was ignited with sodium metal. Yes or no? So this is one. There is another test also for the recognition of sulfur, that is sulfide, that is when sodium extract solution is added with a few drops of sodium nitroprusside compound, complex compound, sodium nitroprusside, PRUSSID, nitroprusside. Then if you observe violet or purple colored solution, if the solution converts into violet or purple color, it indicates that there is a sulfur present in the sodium extract solution. You see here, in this compound, there is no sulfur. So the sulfide ion from here will get inserted here, so that you will be getting thionitroprusside. Thio will be extra added here. So that is a sodium thionitroprusside, which is violet or purple in color. This is a recognition for the sulfur. Two reactions are there. Lead acetate, test with lead acetate, and also test with sodium nitroprusside. Okay, na? The next one, if in the organic compound both sulfur and nitrogen are present, both sulfur and nitrogen are present, then such an organic compound having both sulfur and nitrogen on igniting with sodium will result in the formation of sodium thiocyanate. And this sodium thiocyanate, on treating with the freshly prepared neutral FeCl3, will be forming the whole solution, will convert it just like blood red colored solution, it will convert into. So this indicates the presence of both sulfur and nitrogen together. Got it? This reaction is only when both nitrogen and sulfur are present. If only sulfur is there or only nitrogen is there, you should not take this test. Got it? Copy this one. Yes, or that is also different. That is also there. Monish? Neutral FeCl3 means just FeCl3 dissolved in water. Mhm. Not like that. Completed. This is the previous page. Next, test for halogens. Halogens can be recognized. The presence or absence of halogens can be confirmed by using a silver nitrate reagent, not Tollens reagent. Tollens reagent is silver nitrate plus ammonium hydroxide. Here alone silver nitrate. Okay, na? So the sodium extract, a few ml of sodium extract will be taken, and to that you will add a little amount of silver nitrate, and there will be precipitate formation. And based on the color of this precipitate formation, you will confirm whether it is chloride, bromide, or iodide. Okay. So AgCl means a white precipitate. If at all in the organic compound chlorine is present, you will be getting it in the form of white precipitate in this reaction. If bromine is present, light yellow color or pale yellow color you will be observing. And if iodine is present, then it will be giving a dark yellow color. Even if sulfur is present also, with this reaction, AgS will be formed. So that also will give dark yellow color. So what happens is, if any sulfide is present, already sulfur is confirmed here. And if any sulfide is present, it will interfere with the identification of halogens here, halide ions. That is the reason why you see, before going for a test for before going to identification of halogens, you should heat the sodium extract solution with nitric acid. Then what will happen, if any cyanide or sulfide is present, they will be decomposed and the gases will be liberated out. That means in the sodium extract solution, when you are going for halogens, there should be no cyanide and sulfide. If any little amount of sulfide or cyanide is left over in the sodium extract solution, they can interfere with the reaction result here. Therefore, before going to this reaction, the solution, sodium extract solution, should be added with concentrated nitric acid and heated, so that these will be decomposed of. Only halide will be present, that you will be getting. You can interfere. You can give the confirmation perfectly. White PPT, yes, it is because of chloride only. Light yellow colored precipitate only because of bromide, and dark yellow precipitate only because of iodide. Okay, na? So this point we have to remember. Sodium extract solution directly we should not go with silver nitrate test. Copy it. Already you joined late, Lokesh, and you are asking her to show the previous pages. Others are copying, and why you people are joining late? When others are able to join on time, why you are joining late? No, last week also we have taken in the same time our class. I told fluorine related reactions will not be done. They are a special reactions. Their discussion is different. Next, test for phosphorus. Listen carefully, this one, test for phosphorus. The organic compound first will be heated with an oxidizing agent, sodium peroxide. Organic compound will be heated with sodium peroxide. With this, what will happen? The phosphorus present in the organic compound will be converted into phosphate. That is sodium phosphate. Sodium phosphate. If you want, I will write another step also here. See, or I'll write it like this: the phosphorus present in organic compound on treatment with sodium peroxide will be converted into Na3PO4. Now this Na3PO4 sodium phosphate will be boiled with nitric acid. Delta. On boiling with the nitric, what will happen? Sodium phosphate. Actually, nitric acid is a stronger acid than phosphoric acid present in this one. So what it will do? The stronger acid will enter and throw out the weaker acid out. So that thrown out weaker acid is phosphoric acid. Now this phosphoric acid will be treated with ammonium molybdate. Ammonium molybdate. MO means molybdenum. Molybdenum element is then MO, molybdate. So when phosphoric acid is treated with the ammonium molybdate in presence of nitric acid, you will be getting a yellow colored NH4 thrice PO4 dot 12 MOO3. This whole compound, complex compound, is yellow in color. Okay, so formation of this yellow colored precipitate indicates the presence of phosphorus in the organic compound. Very simple, right? I will tell you, I will summarize this. You see, or else I will show it here itself, you see, so that it will be easier for you to compare. You will take the organic compound, okay, na? To this organic compound, first you will add Na2O2 and heating. Then second, you will be adding, first reagent added is Na2O2. Second reagent added will be nitric acid, heating. Third reagent added is ammonium molybdate, NH4 twice MOO4. With this, you will be getting a yellow colored solution, yellow colored precipitate. So this indicates the formation of, indicate the presence of phosphorus in the organic compound. Got it? The three reagents you will go on add one by one, step by step. That's it for the phosphorus. Bolo. If completed, down the hand. Or if you are having any doubt. Yes, 21 moles of ammonium nitrate. You took 21 moles of nitric acid, na? So that will come out in the form of 21 moles of ammonium nitrate. Yes, Akash. Next. So with this third part is also over. That is a detection of elements present in the organic compound is also over. Now, estimation of elements present in the organic compound. Yes, in the given organic compound, carbon and hydrogen are present. Let us assume carbon and hydrogen are present. Suppose let us take methane itself. In a methane compound, total molecular mass of methane, gram molecular mass of methane is 16 grams. But among these 16 grams, 12 grams is carbon itself, and remaining 4 grams is of hydrogen, carbon and hydrogen. So if somebody asks what percentage of hydrogen is present in this compound, what will you write? Percentage of hydrogen by mass is equal to mass of a hydrogen divided by total mass of organic compound into 100. So that is 25%. Yes or no? That is 25%. That means in CH4 molecule, in each CH4 molecule, 25% mass is because of hydrogens and 75% mass is because of carbon atom. Understood the point? That is what a mass percentage. By how much percentage that element is present in one molecule of compound. That is mass percentage. And that itself is the estimation or calculation of mass percentage or percentage of element by mass in the given organic compound, which is also called as quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis. Quantity, you will be measuring by how much quantity it is present, by how much percentage it is present. Got it? Quantitative analysis. You see here, you can understand. So it is after a detection of different elements present in the organic compound, we go with we should calculate percentage composition of each and every element. The determination of percentage of various elements is called estimation of elements, by how much percentage each element is present. First method is a Liebig's method. In Liebig's method, what you do is you will be estimating the percentages of carbon and hydrogen present in the organic compound. First of all, the organic compound, the carbon present in the organic compound is converted into carbon dioxide, and the hydrogen present is converted into water molecules. Like whatever we have discussed, this reaction already we have discussed in the previous classes about the during the qualitative analysis of carbon and hydrogen. We passed carbon dioxide through potash bulbs and water through calcium chloride bulbs. We did not discuss that point, but we discussed this reaction we have discussed. This we will take it now. Reaction wise, see, I will show you the same reactions. Yes, this one. Carbon converted into carbon dioxide, hydrogen converted into water molecule on heating with by heating with cupric oxide. The same we are doing here also. Here also. Now what we want to do is whatever carbon dioxide gas is formed and water is also formed. Actually, you see, the organic compound will be heated with cupric oxide at high temperature. So at a high temperature, whatever water molecules are formed, they will not be in the liquid state. They will be in the gaseous state only. Water vapor. Water vapor means gaseous state. So a gaseous mixture will be there. Carbon dioxide plus water vapor gaseous mixture. This gaseous mixture will be passed through potash bulbs. Potash means KOH, potassium hydroxide. So when this gaseous mixture is passed through potash bulbs, the carbon dioxide present in the gaseous mixture will be absorbed by the potassium hydroxide, because potassium hydroxide is a base and carbon dioxide is an acidic oxide. So the acidic oxide will start reacting with a base. That is the reason why an acid-base reaction will happen. That it is the reason that when this gaseous mixture is passed through potash bulbs, carbon dioxide will be absorbed, but water will not be absorbed. Water molecules as a water vapor will be coming down. So this water vapor will be absorbed by calcium chloride. When this water vapor is passed through calcium chloride tubes, the water vapor will be absorbed by calcium chloride because it is a dehydrating agent or a hygroscopic substance. You know what is a hygroscopic substance? Absorbs moisture. So this calcium chloride, CaCl2, will absorb all the moisture. Now, actually, this is the concept. Now, point is, we want to know how much amount of carbon dioxide is formed during the reaction. How much amount of carbon dioxide is formed. From that, we can come to know how much carbon is present. So once we come to know how much carbon is present, then easily we can calculate its percentage in the compound, in the organic compound. So to know the amount of carbon dioxide, what we will do is these potash bulbs are there. The potash bulbs mass will be measured before and after passing this gaseous mixture. Before passing gaseous mixture, let us say like a W1 is there. The potash bulbs mass before passing gaseous mixture is W1, and after passing gaseous mixture, hey Kaushik, you have brain? You have? Do you have the brain? Kaushik, what is it you are asking in between? When will IP results come? That means you are not at all focusing. It is a waste to explain. Okay. So potash bulbs mass before passing gaseous mixture will be lesser, and after passing gaseous mixture will be more, because these potash bulbs will be absorbing carbon dioxide. And whatever is the mass of potash bulbs, increased mass of potash bulbs is there, that increased mass is because of carbon dioxide mass. So the increased mass of potash bulbs is equal to the mass of carbon dioxide present in this gaseous mixture. And the increased mass of calcium chloride bulbs, and the increased mass of calcium chloride bulbs is equal to the mass of water formed from the organic compound. Now you will calculate that one. You see the same thing I have written here. The masses of KOH bulbs and calcium chloride tube increases due to absorption of carbon dioxide and water. That already we have observed. And the difference in masses of final KOH bulbs and initial KOH bulbs, or the difference in masses of, we can write it like this also. See the difference in mass of masses of KOH bulbs or potash bulbs before and after passing gaseous mixture is equal to mass of carbon dioxide. Mass of carbon dioxide. In the similar way, you can measure the mass of water also, with the difference in mass of calcium chloride tube before and after. You can come to know what is the mass of water also. So now you have already calculated mass of carbon dioxide and also mass of water. Now what you need to do is to calculate percentage by mass. Masses you have calculated, but percentage by mass. Suppose in the 10 grams of gaseous, in the 10 grams of organic compound, you calculated that there is a 2 grams of carbon. So then what do you do? 2 grams carbon divided by 10 grams organic compound into 100 will give you the mass of carbon. So that is how we do it. Let us see here. Let the mass of organic compound be W grams. Just let us assume that W grams, any number you can assume of. Okay, just I am assuming it as W grams. And the mass of carbon dioxide formed is X grams. What is this X? X is the difference in masses of KOH bulbs after and before passing gaseous mixture, potash bulbs. The increase in the mass of potash bulbs. And this is the increase in the mass of calcium chloride tube. That is the mass of water. And we know that 44 grams of carbon dioxide. 44 grams means, what is this? 44 grams. This is the gram molecular mass of carbon dioxide. Gram molecular mass of carbon dioxide. So 44 grams of carbon dioxide contain 12 grams of carbon. Then X grams carbon dioxide will contain how much? Here X grams of carbon dioxide is formed. Carbon dioxide mass is X grams. So in X grams, how many grams of carbon is present? In 44 grams carbon dioxide, 12 grams carbon is present. Then in X grams carbon dioxide, how many grams is present? So this is the cross multiplication, like X into 12. X into 12 divided by 44. So that is a 12x by 44 grams carbon dioxide. So whatever is the value you got here, that is the increase in mass of potash bulbs that you have to put here, so that you will be coming to know how many grams of carbon is present. Now mass of carbon divided by mass of organic compound, or weight of carbon divided by weight of organic compound into 100 will give you the percentage by mass of, or percentage by weight of organic compound. Got it? If you are getting confused, I will make it as mass only. Okay, na? So mass of carbon is 12x by 44 divided by mass of organic compound is, we have assumed it as W grams, na? So that is here into 100 will give you percentage by mass of carbon. In the similar manner, you will be calculating percentage by mass of hydrogen also, because we already came to know mass of water. How? By the increased mass of calcium chloride tube. Increased mass of calcium chloride tube itself is the mass of water, and 18 grams water contained 2 grams of hydrogen. We know this one. Then y grams water will contain how many grams of hydrogen? That is 2y divided by 18. 2y by 18 grams of hydrogen. So mass of hydrogen divided by mass of organic compound into 100 will give you the percentage by mass of hydrogen also. That means in 100 grams, how many grams carbon will be present and how many grams hydrogen will be present. If only two elements are there, like carbon and hydrogen, then obviously calculating one itself is sufficient. Suppose you calculate for carbon, then 100 minus percentage of carbon will be the percentage of hydrogen only, because both two only elements are there and both addition should be equal to 100%. Yes or no? So this is a calculation of percentage masses of carbon and hydrogen. First, copy this one. I think from here, na, take it. Completed? Next. Completed this page. Copy it fast. We have to write 2-3 more pages. Rishi. Next. Completed. Next page. Saiteja and Rishi. Next, mass percentage of hydrogen. There is a numerical question also. 1 second. Both you copy. Numerical question is also there. I'll paste it here itself. This is for you to practice. Take down. And after copying this page, if anybody will be completed after copying this, they can be. Not before. Completed everyone, Rishi? Yes, we'll stop it here and we'll meet in the evening class. Take care.